I were to say to you tomorrow that you could either never listen to music again that someone else has made, or you could never make music again, which would you choose?
It sounds a little bit vain, perhaps, but I don't actually listen to that much music day to day because I'm working on my own stuff. So I'm not constantly working, let's be honest, but yeah, I'm not listening to that much music. So it wouldn't affect my life that much, which sounds a bit crazy, but yeah, I do like music, obviously, but
Is it because it interferes with your kind of creativity and you find that you end up kind of falling into patterns of what you're listening to, or how come that's a thing?
I have no idea, really. There might be something to do with it not really being a break from work. There might be something to do with that because, yeah, when I'm listening to music, I don't really listen to it perhaps like I used to when I was younger. It's much more analytical. A lot of producers and songwriters will probably tell you that, music listening is no longer the same after you start learning how to make it yourself.
You can't help but pick it apart a little bit.
Well, pretty much the whole time, my ears are just constantly on for audio stuff that's going on. So it's probably just that it's not that much of a break as other people would see it. And so I just go to like a video game or like a YouTube video or something else like that that's completely different.
Where do you find your mind wandering when you're watching something like that or playing a video game? Does it go away from music completely, or do you still
No.
end up stumbling?
There's a lot of times where like you do need to take a break when you do music for sure, or just any work. But I quite often find myself like still thinking about what I've got to do. It's very hard to switch off, to be honest. Yeah, constantly just worrying about like the fact that I'm probably wasting time. Although I'm getting better at seeing it not as that, because everyone needs like time off, to just get the energy back.
Does that happen even we just had Christmas a couple of weeks back. Even on Christmas days, your mind kind of still flitting about some ideas and stuff, or can you kind of get away from it then?
We can talk about the idea stuff more as well, but ideas actually don't tend to come in my head at all. You hear people saying like, it's like, how did you come up with this idea? Oh, I had this melody in my dream or whatever. Like, there's an example, but they never really come to me like that at all. It's usually just when I'm sitting in front of the computer and working away that the ideas come through, messing around essentially. So let's call it guilt. I'd say the guilt of not working is more what it is. It's yeah. So when I'm playing games or like you said, Christmas Day. Some days are particularly like fine to take a break. I think universally everyone's taking a break on Christmas, so it's all right. So, yeah.
I almost found myself subconsciously doing stuff on Christmas Day though. Like I got this book because with all the interview stuff I do, I got this book. It was like interviews with great British songwriters.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I ended up finding myself taking notes from it. This would be kind of a good idea, or it would spur ideas. I know I could use this in a podcast.
Yeah.
And then I realized that subconsciously I had started working on stuff on Christmas Day. I was like, oh, can't get away.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I think I've gotten better over the years, but I used to think, like, for example, Christmas is when I go home. So I go to Orkney, which is like these islands at the top of Scotland, and that's where my family are. But like the last few years, I would like haul up all of my work stuff and expect to be doing stuff up there, and I never would, and I get like super down about it. And more recently, you just decide to take a break and just don't touch anything. So that's what happened this year. But you are still thinking about, oh, you should probably be doing something. But I don't know. Maybe I've just got better at kind of not feeling so guilty about it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not working the whole time either. I'm not like a workaholic. I just think I should be doing more than I do. But yeah, I've gotten better.
Did you go back up to Orkney this year as well? Yeah. How long were you back up for?
I was up for 2 weeks. So the flight was on the 21st or was it the 20th? I can't remember. But either way, the next day got cancelled because of the travel restrictions. So we just made it, basically. Yeah.
Are your family from there? Is that where they're kind of originally from?
No. Mum's from England and Dad's from England as well, although moved to Glasgow when he was younger. So my grandparents are from Glasgow.
I was wondering because I couldn't place the accent. You've kind of got like a mix of the three.
Yeah, it's a bit funny. There's a lot of people. Some people struggle. completely get it wrong and say like I'm New Zealand or something like that. It's a funny accent. It's like a mixture of English and Scottish and Orcadian, as we know it, and that's just a whole accent in itself.
Yeah, Orcadian's not really kind of mainland Scotland. It's got a weird twang to it as well, quite unique.
Yeah, if you're in Aberdeen, if you get a really strong Aberdonian accent, it's kind of close to that.
That's where I am now.
Okay, yeah, that's the closest you'll get.
I know what you mean. I kind of choked there.
Totally. Yeah.
What was your exposure to music like when you were up in Orkney as a kid? You lived there your whole kind of life before you shifted to Glasgow, or?
Yeah, so I moved when I was 11, so that was the final year of my younger school, or primary school in Scotland, we say. Kind of the most of my childhood that I can remember was probably in Orkney. But there was some time in Glasgow. So before I moved to Orkney, I picked up the violin for about a year or maybe 2 years. I think 2 years. And then moved to Orkney, which has got a lot of traditional folk music, and it's taught in the school. So there's a teacher there called Douglas. He was my tutor for 6 years there.
What's the population in Orkney?
It's 23. I'm going to say 23,500. I think it's 23, but that was a while back the census came out. So maybe even 24,000 by now.
So kind of one primary school and one high school?
No, not at all. There's loads of primary schools across the collection of islands, because it's a collection of islands. So there's some primary schools with like 10 pupils in, or like 5 sometimes. Some of them have been shut down because there was like one left, and then it moved to a different island or whatever. So one of my grandparents was teaching. My mum's side grandparents lived up there for a while and taught in primary schools in some of the islands. So yeah, so there's 2 secondary schools though, and one of them is in Kirkwall, which is the biggest city, and then one is Stromness, which is a smaller one. More concentrated when you get older, I suppose.
When was the last time you picked up a violin?
Year or 2 ago, and when I did, it was probably for a couple of days, and then before that, it was another few years. So I've kind of pretty much dropped it at this point, which is sad, but like I just stopped enjoying it, to be honest. I stopped enjoying playing it.
How come?
I think it's something to do with the mono, or like just the one sound, perhaps. And violinists would probably get angry at me, but I like to compose more and put things together and layer stuff up. It's probably something to do with that. I just found practice a little bit dry. That was about it. And I think it was a time thing as well. As soon as I started production, my interest in violin really just started falling then. So
did it sound different to you after you began producing stuff? When you went back and played it, did it feel different?
No, not at all. It just felt like, well, of course I kind of got inspired to do music as work as soon as I started picking up producing, because I thought, oh, I can actually do this perhaps. And obviously for the first few years it was pretty bad. I didn't want to do violin. That was the difference, I suppose. I didn't see it as a work or a job. So I wanted to do something to do with biology before that. So I think it was the fact that I had to make it into a work, and then when you get like factor in time, because you need to have a life as well. Violin just kind of fell off in that way. I needed to put more time into production, I thought.
What age did you kind of discover dance music and house music and that sort of thing and begin producing?
I probably found out about it from my friends and that, playing it at parties for several years before I got into production. So probably around 2011, 2010 was the start of that kind of stuff. In Orkney, we kind of drank at quite a low age, if that's all right to say. So there was a lot of like house parties and stuff and sessions, if that's the right word, going on. So lots of dance music and stuff going on there. But it was just all music to me, so I didn't think of it. But after I started producing, I was like, as soon as I started producing, I started listening to it all completely differently. So I found myself like even at parties and whatnot, just drifting off and thinking, how do they do that? Or could I do that? Whatever.
Coming up with ideas. Well, I know you say you didn't come up with ideas on the spot, but getting inspired for sure. It sounds
Totally. Yeah, I do get inspired when I hear things, sure, but it's definitely not. Yeah, it doesn't. The ideas don't come like melodically, let's say, to me.
How do you remember that inspiration though? How do you kind of keep a hold of that so you can transform it into something when you eventually do get into the studio and you don't forget it?
I probably don't. to be honest. It's each day is different. Each day I wake up in a different kind of mood, and some days I don't have any energy. Some days I have loads, and then some days it like takes a few hours to get into it, and so I just kind of do nothing or like do other things until I feel like I can sit down. So yeah, I don't really hold on to the inspiration. I get inspired in short bursts, and then probably get a bit lazy and do other things. Not very inspirational.
Can that be frustrating? Like, what if you're in an awkward place when you get that burst and you don't have the time to then transfer it into productivity?
Yeah, it used to be a problem when I was younger, but now I just go, like, let's say you're our friends and you're listening to tunes and you're wanting to get making again. You just say that tomorrow you can start tomorrow, but before, yeah, it would kind of, when I was younger, it probably stressed me out a little bit more than it does now. I'm much more chilled out about work than I used to be, which I think it's more healthy because I'm actually getting higher quality work done when I'm putting the hours in instead of stressing the whole time.
You seem like you have a better handle on the kind of balancing it out and kind of incorporating it into life and not letting it take it over a little bit, maybe.
I think I do have a better balance of it. There's a couple of years ago I was pretty unhealthy mentally, and I was just sleeping all over the place, spending every penny I earned from my job on just useless, like frittering away on useless things. And
what were you working as at this point?
I was a care worker for people with autism, so it was like a 1-to-1 or sometimes 2-to-1 support for people with autism and sometimes Asperger's as well.
Was that quite intense, or?
No, it was actually all right. It was really, really, yeah. Some of the people I worked with were just really good fun. So yeah, it was good. It was good work. But yeah, I was just like working too much and living terribly, and then dawned on me that if I don't get stuff together, I'm not going to be able to do music. So I just instantly like took a grasp of everything I could and controlled everything, like sleeping, and I got everything organized. And then I found out that I was equally miserable that way. So now I found a kind of balance of order and chaos, let's say, which is just, yeah, it's like not ordering things too much, but it's not letting things go crazy like it did before. So
it's about finding a way to have chaos work in a system, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You kind of need a structure to your life, but you also need that spark that chaos brings.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll give an example. Is like my sleeping pattern is non-existent, and for some people that really doesn't work, but for me it's fine. It can get in the way of like certain days when you wake up at like, sometimes I wake up at 4 a.m. because I went to bed early, and then sometimes I'm waking up at 6 p.m. And it sounds horrible and it sounds depressing, but it's fine for me, so it just works. But that's my example of somewhere that chaos is, and then order would be like, trying to exercise each day or something like that.
How does your day operate if you get up at 6 p.m. though? Because that probably means going to bed kind of 10 in the morning, maybe?
it just changes each day. Pretty much I stay awake for like 18 hours and then go to sleep for 8. So I still get my 8 hours, which means I should be healthy somewhat. And I still get sunlight, because if you're waking up early in the morning, or if you're waking up late at night, there's still a frame that you'll reach some sunlight and go outside. So
I feel like I've got a similar problem, because I don't feel tired after like, I don't know, 14 hours or whatever, 16 hours if I sleep for 8.
Well, exactly. Ideally, you'd sleep for 8 and then be awake for 16, but by the time it reaches 16, I'm not tired, so I'm constantly coming in and out of like the normal society sleep schedule, and
just drifting in and out.
Yeah, just exactly. And every time I try and fight it, even though I've tried it many times in the past, every time I've tried, I've just been miserable. So it's something that I'm just gonna have to live with, is that I can stay awake for a little bit longer and maybe try and order other things in my life. So yeah,
it's worth it if it makes you happier.
Yeah, it's not even just happier. I just like, when I try and fix my sleep schedule, I'm missing a few days because I'm just so tired some of the days and just feel drained and rubbish. So yeah.
What's your diet like at the minute then? If you're saying a couple of years ago, sleep and diet were the two things that were kind of a bit all over the shop.
Yeah, so I was eating just junk, really, to be honest. Lots of processed stuff. And now it's pretty much just like not processed stuff. That's the best way to put it, like eggs and beef and stuff like that.
How, again, like if a couple of years ago you could go like a month without writing a song,
Mm-hmm.
what's the rhythm of your workflow like at the moment? How often are you kind of writing?
I'd say on average, probably 5 days a week I'm trying to make something, and then 2 days I'll probably not do something. So, and that's not a, Monday to Friday and Saturday, Sunday off. It's just whenever. And then when I'm working, each day it's anywhere between 4 to 6 hours, I think, on average. But a lot of my music doesn't take very long, to be honest. Like I think I've just probably over the years learned how to work quite fast and stuff. But if an idea is rubbish, I won't put it out, and I can tell within the first few hours if it's rubbish. So each day I try and make a kind of new idea and then wrap it up if it gets accepted by a label or whatnot.
Do you give a value then to the kind of speed at which a song is written? Can you notice a pattern with a time frame that tends to produce better work?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's just that it usually tends to be like quite fast. Like I give lessons. I give like private lessons in production, and sometimes they're saying you're going a bit fast because I am just like kind of firing things down and throwing things around quite a lot. Throwing ideas up and getting things deleted and starting new things. So
Do you find your mind moves faster when you're in that space?
no, I think it slows down, if I'm being honest. I stopped thinking about that kind of just the world in general. I haven't thought about that, to be honest, but yeah, it does slow down, even because you're just more focused on something, I suppose. Like I feel like my head's constantly going round and in circles and whatnot when I'm not doing something I'm focused on. So
All the everyday anxieties kind of just clear away.
yeah, I would say so, because yeah, exactly, pretty much. I should probably do it more.
More clarity when you're in that space then? Does everything kind of feel like you have a slightly better perception on what's happening right in front of you at that point in time?
Well, there's a specific time I think that I've been getting more, I've been accessing more, which is like, I think some people would call it flow state. I just kind of call it not stressing out too much about what you're making. And I've been able to get that more recently than previously. So it's become more enjoyable and more easygoing. It kind of just comes out easier and much, like more flowy, if that's the right word.
You had a period kind of last year to this year as well, was it like April to February, when you didn't really put anything out? Were you still writing as much during that period but just not releasing?
Probably, yeah, probably. To be honest, there was a period as well where, well, we can talk about this as well, but as a producer, I don't know if you noticed, but like the stuff I'm putting out is kind of varied, or very varied, in kind of style and influence.
Well, you've got the kind of houseier stuff and the dancier stuff, and then there's a lot of kind of elements at play.
Yeah, there's just a lot. There's not very, there's not like one sound, I don't think, and that was a important part in the way I work now, is that I don't make a certain sound that day. I don't sit down and say I'm going to make this day. During that time you mentioned, like I would try that and I would make kind of not very good stuff. I would say it has to be like this in this certain style, and I think at that time you mentioned I was going for more house stuff. So I was just ignoring all of these other influences and samples I was finding from other genres that in my mind couldn't work for that style of music. But now, as a producer, I'm just striving to make just music in general and across all influences and all genres, and so I'm making way more stuff than before as well.
It's tough as well because it's kind of, the music industry at large encourages you to have a kind of clear, cohesive vision and to kind of be assertive about it. We live in this world where we say we don't want genre anymore, and we've kind of moved past that, but it still seems to want to put things in boxes a little bit.
There is, yeah, I think there's a lot of people saying that genres, like labels, aren't interested in genres and things, and I don't think it's true. I think the industry is interested in people that have like a brand, let's say, and if that brand is a certain style of music, there's a lot of dance music producers that have a very kind of like heavy and dark sound, and nothing light gets put out by them, and all of the branding's dark and kind of emo and whatnot. That can really work, sure. It doesn't work for me though, and if it doesn't work for me, I won't make any music. So I don't know what's better. This is a constant debate I'm having in my head, and thankfully I've got like a manager that supports what I'm doing. But yeah, a lot of people have said like you're gonna have to stick to one style of music, but the thing is, I'm looking at artists like, for me, like Diplo and Skrillex, even, and he's not doing dubstep anymore. I'd encourage people to go listen to what he's been doing recently. But Skrillex and Diplo and Calvin Harris and probably Mark Ronson. And there's a few more. There's like S.G. Lewis is a guy I've been listening to quite a lot recently. You're just listening to their stuff and realizing that it is possible as a producer / artist to put out a bunch of different stuff and work with many people from many different influences. It is a possible thing to do. It's not as common as a kind of sound, but it's possible, and that, I suppose, inspires me. So I'm going for that kind of artist vision, I suppose.
I mean, you mentioned Calvin Harris there. He's a good example of that. There are other ways to unify it. He'll maybe have one or two things. Like, I think it's that 18 Months album, isn't it, that every song's at the same BPM?
Oh,
is it totally different?
Around 126 or something, will it be, for the...
Yeah, I think it's 1 to 8 or something. They're all at that tempo, but then they all sound completely different. Because I guess if you put that restriction on you, then it kind of forces yourself to challenge.
There is something
to make it sound different.
I mean, I've got a lot of friends that play guitar, and I've had people saying, like, because I've got all these virtual amps, right, that can do anything. It's like any reverb you want or whatnot. But friends have told me that they prefer to limit themselves to like one reverb and one amp and one distortion and get the most out of that. And that, I can see that working for a lot of people. But for me, I prefer having like all the tools.
It gives it more of an exploratory edge, doesn't it?
And I genuinely just think, like, as well, like I refrain from giving out rules to people as well on how to get production, how to get better at production, and how to get better at writing, because I found so many conflicting rules and so many different opinions that it's just best to figure your own way around the kind of industry and creation process. Did
it take a little bit of time to get accustomed with that? When you kind of first found that things were conflicting quite a lot?
Totally. Like I said, there was a year that I didn't produce, and one of the big factors in that year was obviously the chaos I was talking about, but the other factor was just the fact that I didn't know what to do at all. I was like, I'm going to have to choose a sound. Then I'd choose one and get bored of it. So I wouldn't make anything in that sound for another month. After I just kind of got over myself, let's say, and just said, well, look, just sit down, make whatever. And as soon as I started doing that, everything kind of pieced together. And that's been the last year or so that I've started doing that. And things have really picked up. And just because of that kind of mind shift.
Everything you've put out since then it's most of your biggest singles, I think, have kind of come out last year, 2020.
It's been just really, really been picking up. And like it's nice in a way, because it kind of asserts that thing that I thought from the start, which is it's better to do something than nothing at all, which is what I'm doing now compared to what stressing about what sound I was going for was like.
After you came back and that was kind of proved that worked, how does that then impact you going forward? Do you have a little bit more confidence in your convictions with that now that you've done whatever you want and it's worked?
Definitely there is. Of course, though, I still listen to artists that do have that specific style and brand and kind of go, oh, it'd be sick to be able to have something like that. And do you know what? I actually really respect artists that managed to pull that off, but I just can't do it. So yeah, I do think about that a lot of the time.
Do you think about the songs as singles, or what is it? Like, I mean, you put out the Colours EP last month?
Something like that, yeah.
Were you thinking about those songs as part of a body of work, or were they still just individual tracks and singles in your mind?
To be honest, they were probably more individual tracks in my mind. I've never really thought of putting, because of the dance music stuff I was influenced by before, it's not really typical to put out an EP or an album, really. You're putting out singles or like tracks, essentially. So I was kind of in that mindset there. Also, probably because I don't really listen to albums back to back, typically. I genuinely just pick out some of my favorites and listen to them, and the rest kind of go.
Are you very much a playlist guy?
No, not even. No.
You just kind of, you'll find the record and then go back and revisit your favorite tracks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I typically type in the artist onto Spotify, which I don't know how many people do that, but typically type in the artist and pick my songs. I should probably make a playlist. Like, I've made one, but I don't use it that much. But I quite often know what I want to hear and just play that exact song.
Do you have every song in your mind almost as a potential hit? Like, a lot of them do have that kind of big single feel to them. Or are there certain songs where you're kind of thinking that you maybe want to move in a little bit of a different direction?
My songs, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you know, but I've got another project, which is just my name, just you and Alison.
Kind of more traditional acoustic-y type stuff.
Yeah.
But with a modern production edge to
Yeah, a
it.
little bit. Yeah, exactly. But I think when I wrote the Lego Bricks song with Lily, I did have a feeling that that would do quite well. It's difficult as well because streams on Spotify are really not everything. You'll see big numbers and you'll find out where those streams are from. And because I work in I do a lot of dance music stuff, it's really a problem in the dance music scene where labels, I'm gonna just call them labels, even though they're a bit shaky sometimes, but they'll sign a track and they'll put it into a playlist with a bunch of other tracks that they assigned, and then they'll promote the playlist to other countries with perhaps a lower cost per click. South American countries can sometimes be like that, where each person that clicks the advertisement to the playlist it costs less than a, let's say, Swedish or American customer. So there's a lot of that going on, which is really bad, and it inflates the streams a lot. So some things might look like hits when no one actually cares. So yeah.
Yeah, you can see if they get added to like coffee shop playlists and stuff as well. Maybe not so much in terms of your stuff, but
yeah, the kind of playlists for dance music that would typically be marketable would be like gym or festival kind of playlists. So it's kind of annoying what's going on with the dance music stuff because there's loads of people just bragging about all these numbers which just mean nothing a lot of the time.
It's interesting that you can see the stats now. Like that was never a thing really before, was it? Where you could see album sales in such a kind of clear, instantaneous way. Like the numbers literally there with what your top tracks are.
And the numbers can mean like 1,000 listens that are from real people. Like let's say me going into an artist profile and clicking on it. 1,000 listens from that are way more valuable than 100,000 that have just been marketed towards, and they don't really care. They're just shuffling onto a playlist that they've been told that's, for the gym or something. It is funny that you can see it all, but not all that you can see is the true, I suppose, industry.
Can that feel a little bit alienating sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're thinking about your connection to your fans, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of producer friends, and there's a lot of jokes going around about certain artists that their entire presence on Spotify and whatnot has been essentially kind of marketed and isn't real. It's hard to explain, but like, yeah, their social media engagement, for example, is just not. There's nothing. But on Spotify, they're getting like 2 million plays a month, which is just crazy. So on one hand, they look like the real deal, and on the other hand, no one knows who they are. So Spotify, I suppose, has created this a little bit, this weird anomaly through the playlisting and the ability to have third-party playlists.
I'm always interested what's going to come after Spotify, because it's never going to be around forever, and you wonder these kind of things that are happening now, how that's going to continue in new forms. And
yeah, I remember when SoundCloud was dying, and it kind of is still a bit dead. I got really stressed out. Maybe it's because I don't like change, but yeah, I got really stressed out because I didn't really understand Spotify at the time, but yeah, there was always going to be something new. So none of us can predict what's going to happen, I suppose. So we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, you did quite well on SoundCloud. So did you kind of start off as a SoundCloud artist before you moved over to Spotify?
Yeah, that's the reason I was stressed about SoundCloud, to be honest, is because
got a lot of numbers on there.
Well, yeah, but the fact that you could just upload anything, or you could upload a remix, which is quite important, whereas you can't do that on Spotify unless it's like an official remix. I've had friends that have put remixes up on SoundCloud and then done incredibly well just because it's been a popular remix, and then been contacted by major labels and signed deals from that and written for huge artists just from a remix. So it stressed me out a little bit seeing people doing that and then the opportunity closing for that possibility. So
yeah, it just becomes less accessible. It's like that's the beautiful thing about the internet in some ways. When you think of things like YouTube or podcasts, it's like we're living in an era now where anyone can create anything and kind of get it into the hands of someone quite high up in a much easier, more accessible way.
Yeah, true. So yeah, like I suppose a lot of the other stress was at the time I was in this middle ground of having lots of thousands of streams on Spotify, on SoundCloud, but not really having any contacts in the industry. So obviously I've built that up a little bit now, but at the time it was just kind of stressful seeing that kind of die off.
How did that work for your Jonas Aden?
Oh, Aiden, I think, yeah, Jonas Aiden.
So that was a competition, right? So do you get the stems from that, and then you kind of just have to remix it, and you send it back to him, and then because you won that, right?
Yeah, I won it. Actually, he's done 3 remix competitions. I entered all of them, so I entered the first one, and didn't manage to win that one. And to be honest, that's fine because it was pretty badly mixed and stuff. But anyway, made a little impact with that one, and then entered the second one. I literally finished it on the bus home to Orkney for a little break. It was like completely last minute. I think it was like 8 hours work or something. Like I said, I kind of worked quite fast and got that together really fast. And I just felt like I wanted to put something out, and I hadn't really made something that heavy before. It's very like Swedish House Mafia, as Jonas had described in his video. Like, yeah, I just made something like that and decided to put it out, and it won.
Can you write anywhere? I'm just imagining you on the bus back up to Orkney.
I started it right here. Pretty much had the whole idea done here, and just was finishing it off on the bus on a laptop at the time. So you just need headphones, you know. It's not too bad.
I guess it kind of takes you completely out of that world as well.
So
passes that bus journey pretty quick. That 8 hour.
The remix competition though was, for me, it was like, yeah, we'll just try it. We'll just give it a shot. And I posted it and asked a few mates to, like it, and a few of my followers to post it up and whatnot. And then, yeah, I just got told I won through an email a week before the announcement. And I was kind of I was shocked. But it's been one of the best things that's happened in the recent path, because from that I got contacted by Warner, or Spinning Records is owned by Warner, and they have a publishing side, so we're looking at a publishing deal over there at the moment. And that was just from a remix as well. But I think what happened is that I followed up. They said, "Hi, we like your stuff. Can you send us your music?" So I sent them everything, and I don't know if that's the best thing to do, but I sent them everything from Lego bricks, like that stuff, to the heavier stuff that I'd written. And I think that almost pricked up their ears a little bit, because I suppose perhaps I'm more valuable in that sense, that I can write for other artists as well. Of course, publishing are going to be interested in that, because that's what they do. They kind of spark up collaborations, and if I can be thrown in a room with a hip-hop artist and make a beat with them, and then a indie artist and make a song with them, I suppose you're more valuable to them. So yeah,
that's kind of what you do at the minute. I mean, if you look at that Colours EP, every artist that you're collaborating with on that is kind of coming from a completely different place to a certain extent. They're all very different artists.
Totally. And that's really what I find fun, and what keeps me doing it. It's just this one. I really do want to work with other artists. Like I'd be more than happy to have every one of my songs be a collaboration with another artist and whatnot, featuring or anything. It's not. I don't want to take all the credit. It's just like I want to work with people. It's just fun. Bringing the best out of them almost is just the goal, I suppose.
I mean, how do you connect with some of those people? Because I think, who is it on Cool again?
Oh, Alessia. She's Italian. She's Italian. Yeah. That was a mate of mine that reached out to her. That was a bit of a funny one, but now we're good friends. So like we've done some other stuff together. She's funny. She's really nice. Yeah, that was just a friend that was working with her. Asked her, or I asked him for vocals, and he messaged her. And sometimes it's like the Oliver or Odd Blue, which is on the Nobody's Business song from the Colours EP. He actually messaged me through my You and Alison Instagram account, saying that he's a jazz musician and he liked my song November and he wanted to try working on something with that. And we're going to do some writing next week, actually. But he sent me that demo, and I was like, oh my God, I can make it into a kind of more dancey version of what you had already, and let's release it onto the Magnus thing. So it can be kind of random. And I noticed also you interviewed Katie Mackey. I think, was it your last interview?
Yeah, just before all this kind of lockdown hit. You met her in Pizza Hut, right?
Yeah, that was it. So most of it's been really random. Nothing too organised.
I guess that comes back to what we were speaking about earlier with the idea of chaos. Like it's a structured collaboration, but it's born from just complete spontaneity and randomness.
I mean, Lily, for example, the girl that I wrote Lego Bricks with, I was going for one of my late night walks, but for me it was early morning. It was 3 a.m. or something, and I'd just woken up. So I went for a walk. I was just just on Spotify shuffling. What do they call it? Release radar or something like that. Shuffling that because I had no idea what I wanted to listen to, and then Lily came on in the release radar, and she was like a small artist at the time, and still, we're both small artists still, but like I expected her because of the quality of the song I heard. It was called Maybe, and I expected it to be really big. And I went to her profile, and it was like, almost no streams a month, and not much social media presence and whatnot. So I was kind of like, oh my god, I really would like to actually work with this person and make something. And it looks like it's possible, perhaps, because smaller artists can collaborate. So DM'd her on SoundCloud. We sparked up we tried a song before that and didn't really go well, and then the idea for Lego Bricks came out, and I just kind of said, do you want to work on this? And that all pieced together. So everything's very random. I wouldn't stress about it too much. Good things will come, I suppose.
Are you expressing a different side of yourself when it comes to kind of Lego Brick stuff and things like that, the more kind of soft acoustic-y that isn't dance music?
Yeah, I think I was, it's quite a generic thing to be, or generic artist to be inspired by, but I was really inspired by Ed Sheeran when I was younger. I haven't listened to much of his stuff recently. Definitely that album Plus, I think, was just a huge influence for me when I was younger. And I wanted to know how to sing because I couldn't. I was terrible and I never had any training or anything. But the problem is, to get good, you have to practice. And to practice, you can't exactly put a mute like you can on a trumpet or something. You've got to just sound terrible and very loudly bad as well. So I didn't want to do that in my house, basically. Just confidence, I suppose. But yeah, I never wanted to express myself very much in my house because it would get me embarrassed. So I waited till I moved to Glasgow to start trying to learn how to sing and write songs. So yeah, I do. I suppose I'm just kind of expressing a part of my music that I've always wanted to do, but never had the confidence to get good at before I put it out.
Does it feel different producing your own vocal to someone else's?
Definitely. Although I'm using the same tools and techniques, it's just like I'm way more picky and just things take a lot longer.
Do you ever lay down like guide vocals on the Magnus stuff before you send it over to someone else to kind of add a vocal on top? Or
Before I never used to, and I would get back these vocals that were just not the vision I was thinking of. But now I've started doing that, and things have started going a lot better, which has been great. And some of my You and Alison tracks were actually written as guide vocals in the idea that someone else would sing on them, and then I liked them. So yeah, it's definitely a thing to do, especially if you want to send it to someone. Like of course, when not many of us are in the studio with each other right now, so everything's online, and sometimes it's kind of hard to get your vision across without a guide.
Do you normally work through, kind of pre-pandemic, were you working over Zoom though, and kind of via remote collaborations?
Honestly, not really, to be honest. I mean, everything was remote and there were remote collaborations, but I wasn't doing it with someone. Like it was, hey, I'll send you the project, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll work tomorrow, and then I'd work tomorrow and send it back, and that's how it would work until then. Recently, it's been more Zoom stuff, and that's because I've been trying to write. The publisher has set up certain sessions and whatnot even before we're signed there, which is a good sign. I think they're interested, but they've been, setting up sessions and such. So maybe, yeah, I've not got that much experience in sessions in general, to be honest. A lot of it's just kind of done in my own room.
So was Cool then, was that written was that written post-pandemic? If that was, because that would have been a virtual collaboration, right? Or
yeah, that was written between me and this Mexican guy, Mexican friend of mine, Eric, his name, and he just came up with the basic idea, and then I did everything else pretty much. And yeah, the vocals, after the track had been kind of made, the vocals got on top, and it was one of the smoothest things, like one of those smooth tracks that everything just works out and they sounded good. Yeah, we sent it to this label called NCS, which are quite a good little UK label for getting your music exposed, for sure, because a lot of YouTubers use it for their videos, and content creators use it for the videos because it's no copyright sounds is what the name stands for. So
how do you maintain a sense of the energy of a song when you're working on it so much? Because I mean, that song in particular, cool, the way you kind of cut it off at the end, and it feels like there should be another chorus, and it kind of leaves you wanting more, and it keeps the energy running high as it finishes.
yeah.
How do you kind of keep on top of that when you're working on it so much?
You actually mentioned that. I don't know if you've noticed that all of the Colours EP are like under 3 minutes or something, or they're just under.
It's rapid,
Yeah, I've got a bad habit of that, and I think I would like to be able to write better songs. I think as a producer, especially when you're doing dance music as well, like you're used to kind of build up and then a drop, let's call it, and then a breakdown and then another build up and then a drop. So you're used to this kind of 2 climactic parts, and then everything else is just kind of filler. Not saying that it's unthought and unmusical or whatnot, but like I think I'm still stuck in that mindset, and like the idea of a middle 8 or something that's a random part of the end or whatnot was a bit alien to me. I'm still trying to push past that, to be honest. But yeah, I probably make things too short, if I'm honest.
Is structure of sound then more important to the energy? Like what you're saying, is it more important that it sounds perfect and it's exactly how it should feel, or that it comes at the perfect moment in a song for it to function? Even something like the another example with the Jonas Adden remix, when you kind of cut it and then it hits.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, silence, like just gaps and space are really important. A lot of people and a lot of kind of amateur producers makes a lot of their sounds very long and legato and stretched out. When utilizing space can be really good. So there is something to be said with that. Structure's been something I've been focusing on more, especially the fact that a lot of my music in the past would use like one chord progression for the whole song and vary it that somehow with different instruments. But now I'm really looking at changing the chords for your pre-chorus and your verses and your chorus. Not every time, but yeah, it's just something that I'm still getting into. My music theory also isn't amazing, and my instrumentalism, if that's a word, is not great either. I'm used to just kind of programming stuff into the computer. So it's all stuff I've still got to learn, for sure.
Do you find that different chords inspire different melodies?
Yeah, totally. Especially with like sevenths and more jazzier chords, which I wish I could play more as well. So, but yeah, they chords and instrumental parts always come before melody for me. Like I said, I never think of melodies in my head. They just always float on top of the kind of chords and whatnot I've laid down already.
It's an interesting one to try and think about where melodies come from. They almost seem to be more, like if you're writing a lyric, you can kind of relate it back to your life directly, but melodies, there's just no way to do that.
I do wonder where they come from, but they for me, they just tend to float on top of some chords that are already there. And without the chords, for me, melodies I can't extract them almost. I suppose the melodies do come from the chords and the key that you're writing in, but yeah, I can't come up with them otherwise.
What you were saying there about kind of writing in jazzier chords and wanting to move and kind of get better at that, do you have quite a clear sense of where you want to develop as an artist on a technical level, as opposed to the sound of it, more just you as like a performer?
Yeah, my performance is very not good. It's not good. That's a huge hole with my work, I suppose, is the fact that I'm not able to do much performance stuff, and it's something I want to get better at, for sure. Piano, it doesn't take that much either. Just pick up the guitar 10 minutes a day and do some piano 10 minutes a day or whatnot. But yeah, that's just a big problem for me. It's just performance stuff, because I've relied on being able to edit everything afterwards for so long.
What you were saying earlier though about how, I think quite near the start of this, about how you kind of don't have any restrictions, you use all the tools that you can. Maybe having those kind of natural restrictions as a performer is what gives your work those kind of limitations that then allow you to be creative within it.
Yeah, no, totally. I've had friends that have like one keyboard and they have a bunch of different sounds in it, but nothing incredibly diverse or whatnot. But they seem to make the most out of it, which is cool. I did actually want to get a real piano in the house because it's just away from the screen and it's away from everything technical. I think that would probably encourage me to practice a little bit more because it's going somewhere completely different.
They're just nice as well. There's something about a piano, the kind of craftsmanship of it.
Yeah, it just feels better than these kind of plastic keys and whatnot. I'm always looking on Gumtree for like free ones and whatever. Because there's people, believe it or not, there's people giving away free ones because they're moving house or whatever. And because they're so big, they just say, look, you can have it for free as long as you come get it next week. So I'll keep looking.
Start a collection. Get a few pianos, like one in every room.
Yeah, well, there's not much room. I don't know where I'd put one yet. Probably under my bed, which sounds silly, but it's a bunk bed, so it's possible.
What you're saying there about how you like the idea of just being able to go in and kind of sit down and play on it. Is that how your setup is designed at the moment? Do you have anything in place that you can kind of just start creating instantly, or do you have a little bit of setup time before you can begin?
Oh no, I can begin pretty much instantly. And the way I always begin actually is using this service called Splice. I don't know if you heard of it before.
I've seen it. You kind of speak about it in your video.
Yeah, exactly. So Splice and practice and the change of mind of trying anything I want. If you combine all three of those, that's how things have gone so well in the last year or so. So Splice should really sponsor me, to be honest, at this point. But it's like a co-writing session because a lot of the things on there are just chord progressions or guitar hooks or synth kind of pads or one-shot sounds or whatever they are, or just drum loops. Like it's like an artist has made them, a session musician has made them while you're in the studio with them. So before I viewed them as that, which I view them as now, I used to view them as kind of cheating and not being good. And then I learned more about the industry and I realized that there's so much collaboration behind so many songs that I liked and loved when I was younger and still do now. You can't be expected to do everything and be make your own bass line and make your own synths and play this piano perfectly. And there's nothing wrong with working, I suppose, with other people. Splice is somewhat different though, because it's other people have put their stuff up and then you can take it. So there's not much human interaction there, but it's the same kind of idea. It's just a jazz pianist might have recorded a pack for Splice, and you're just taking their packs and using them, and you pay for the service.
Have you ever uploaded any stuff to it yourself for other people to use?
Actually, no. I released my own sample library, the first one, independently on my own website, and that was actually really good. So I got about 40 people buying that, which is amazing. One person sent me a message saying he got it for Christmas, and his parents had printed out my logo in a little cardboard box and given it to him, which is quite nice. I'm going to do more this year, and because I'm planning like a house, kind of a hard house EP thing, and I want to release the sample library for that as well, and it's going to be like much bigger. And I'm still convinced to do it independently, to be honest, because the first one worked out very well and wasn't really planned out or anything, and this new one's going to be better. So I might just do it myself again.
Ties into what we were saying earlier as well, when you were speaking about SoundCloud and saying how it makes things a little bit more accessible. It's the same thing. It's giving people a peek behind the curtain and kind of showing them how they can create this thing. Yeah,
YouTube's. I do private lessons, obviously, but YouTube's been quite fun as well. Although my YouTube got deleted recently.
Yeah, I was waiting to say what happened. What actually happened?
I was using email inbox provider from Google. It sensed that I was a bot or something. I can't tell. It got me wrong and the security messed up and deleted my channel. But now I've done like the two-factor authentication, and I've moved to a different inbox provider, and it should be fine. So I'm sure it'll be all right. I think it was just a security thing, and the fact that it was a small channel still, probably they don't care about those people, so it just kind of becomes automated at that point.
That's a bit of a pain in the arse.
Yeah, but I've tried, obviously, at least I've said this to people, but like at least it happened now and not when it was bigger, let's say.
Yeah. You could be a bot though.
I could be a bot. Yeah. No, I try not to, I try not to be too botty online, but I think...
You're quite personable when it comes to the kind of Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, I try and throw personality in there. That's another thing with producers, actually, is that there's a lot of them that are faceless, let's say, online. Or if not faceless, they're just not really putting their personality into things. A lot of dance music producers can can fall into this kind of, they all look and act the same. They all wear leather jackets and black skinny jeans and sunglasses and whatnot.
And they never smile.
Never smile, and they're way too cool to smile. But I don't know, like, if you want to be a real, kind of more, like, engaging artist, I think it's just better to be a real person. And
I feel like there's less room for the mystery now, isn't there? Whether we like it or not, I mean, I do quite like a little bit of mystery myself, but, like, it's kind of gone now with social media. Like, you're looking behind the curtain completely.
Yeah, and some artists can utilize mystery still. Like, they wear a mask, or they don't do interviews or whatnot.
I feel like very few people get away with wearing a mask, though.
Yeah,
you've kind of got Daft Punk.
It's not...
Marshmallow looks like a tit.
Marshmallow's cool. Like, his brand was solid. I mean, he used to be a small time. People know his smaller artist project, but he was a small time producer before he did that rebrand, and it's been incredible. But it doesn't work for everyone. There's loads of artists that are putting on masks, and, like, it doesn't quite work for everyone. It's kind of a luck draw thing. So for me, I'm just trying to be who I am. Some people have said I sound nothing like my social media. Like, they're surprised that I'm the same person. I don't know. I feel like I'm the same person, but...
Everyone's different on texting, though, aren't they?
True. And you can read text in so much different way. Like, I could be typing it one way, and someone could read it in a different tone, and the whole thing changes. So,
how good a sense of your personality do you think people can get from your music?
I have no idea. I've got no idea.
Why don't we flip it? When you're collaborating with an artist, like, say, you've got Canary Gold, you've got Van Ives on the last EP. When you're collaborating with them and you listen to their music, how good a sense of their personality when you actually work with them can you get from what they've put out before?
I don't know. I think there's only very few artists that I get a sense of their personality for some reason. Probably the 1975. I don't know why, but maybe that's because they've got all this other extra content, though, a vibe around them.
He's quite pretentious in person and in music.
It's just they've got this kind of, and then there's
it's kind of art schooly, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I still like their music, to be fair.
Man, I've got their records over on the shelf. I do like them, but
although you sometimes get surprised. Like, I don't really listen to Tom York too much. Radiohead was cool, but they're not a huge influence for me. I've listened to that. I saw them at Transmit years back, and my girlfriend really likes Tom York, but she refuses to listen to his interviews because apparently she's been told by other people that he's a bit pretentious. And I'm not going to claim this. I haven't watched interviews or listened to much of his music, but she says she doesn't want to listen to his interviews because she's worried that it might spoil it for her, which is kind of weird. But
I don't think I've ever got that with an artist.
No,
where I feel unless it was a personal experience, maybe, but never through a screen or whatever.
Well, what's the word? I separate art from artist the whole time. I mean, there's artists that are posting stuff all over their social media that sometimes I disagree with or sometimes I agree with, but I don't care. A lot of the time I kind of almost don't want to hear it because it reminds me of the real world again instead of the reason I follow them. So yeah, there's a bit of that, and it's something that I try to do as an artist as well, because after speaking to people all over the world, from all over the place, you realize that everyone's got different views and everything. So as an artist, in my opinion, it's best to just not say anything, which is what I've tried to do pretty much. It's just, you don't know who you're alienating when you put things online, and from both sides, it's best to just kind of not talk about that stuff and make music.